Good morning. Welcome to today's English class. Today let's discuss a new lesson. What is the time? Okay. So this lesson talk about the time. Okay. Before that, have you ever seen your grandparents wear watches? Or they look the mobile phones to say the time? No. Why do they do so? Then, have you ever wondered how people knew time before clocks were invented? Let's find out the how can we set the time before the invention of clocks and watches. Okay, look at your textbook. Let's read. Nowadays, people use clocks to measure time. However, long ago, there were no clocks. How did people tell the time then? During the olden days, people watched the movement of the sun across the sky. They also observed that the size of the shadows that were formed depended on the movement of the sun. They planted a stick vertically in the ground and fixed stones around it in a circle. As the sun went up or down, the shadow of the stick shifted, and the position of the shadow helped them tell the time. This was the first sundial. Okay. Nowadays, people use clocks to measure time. So now these days, now we are use clocks to measure time. So now we are using clocks to measure time, or now we are using to watch the time. We can use the clocks, okay, or mobile phones, okay, or watches. But long ago or previous times, olden times, there were no clocks to measure the times. Okay, in olden days or previous times or long ago, there were no clocks or no watches to measure time. Then, how did people tell the time then? You can think. Then how did that people to say the time or tell the time? How did they tell the time? Did you know that? Let's check. During the olden days, people watched the movement of the sun across the sky. In olden times, how did the people tell the time? To watch the movement of the sun across the sky. Okay, movement of the sun. They watch the movement of the sun across the sky. And they also observe that the size of the shadow that were formed depended on the movement of the sun. So the olden days, people tell the time to watch the movement of the sun across the sky and also observe the size of the shadows. Shadows പറഞ്ഞാൽ നിഴലിന്റെ വലിപ്പം നോക്കി. Okay, size of the shadows. Okay, so the olden days people watch the movement of the sun across the sky and also observe the size of the shadows form. Okay, to depended on the movement of the sun. And they planted a stick vertically. And also they planted a stick. Okay, stick. Okay, they planted a stick vertically in the ground. Okay, so the olden days people watched the movement of the sun across the sky and also observed the size of the shadow depended on the movement of the sun. And they planted a stick vertically on the ground. They planted a stick vertically on the ground and fixed stones around it in a circle. So they planted a stick vertically on a ground and also they put some stones around it. Okay, some stones around it. And look here, around it in a circle as the sun went up or down. As the sun went up or down, the shadow of the stick shifted. So, this is the shadow. Okay, you can see that this is the shadow mirror. So, the sun went up or down, the shadow of the stick shifted or changed. The shadow of the stick is changed. And the position of the shadow helped them tell the time. This was the first sundial and this is called the sundial. They called that this sundial, the first sundial. Okay, so these days we are looking watches to measure time or clocks to measure time. But in olden days, there were no clocks to measure time. Then the people used to measure time to look the movement of the or watch the movement of the sun across the sky, and they also observed the position of the shadow were depended on the movement of the sun. And they also, olden days, the people also use and they plant a stick vertically on the ground and put some stones. Okay. And they fixed some stones around the stick in a circle form. They plant a stick vertically in the ground and fixed a stone around it in a circle. Then the sun went up or down, the shadow of the stick shifted, okay, or changed. The position of the shadow helped the people to tell the time. So, the first one is the first stick. So, the shadow will be in the first stone. They tell that time. So, 1 o'clock. And the next, the movement of the sun change. The shadow of the stick go to the next stone. So, the people tell the time 2 or 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Like that. Okay. And this is called the first sundial. Clear? Clear that? Then, next page, page number 51. How then did people get to know the time after sunset? This is the this can tell the time using the sun, movement of the sun. Before the sunset, or before, not after the sunset, how will the people tell the time? Did you imagine? Then they watch the position of the position and movement of the stars. Okay, after the sunset, the people used to tell the time to watch the movement of the or position of the stars. Okay, stars. This helped them find out the time at night. Okay, only the morning time the people can set the time using the movement of sun. After the sunset, they used to tell the time. They watch the position and movement of the stars. Then they tell the time in night. Okay. So, I hope all of you understood this. So, read carefully for these two paragraphs. Okay. So, let's discuss and find the meaning in the online classes. Okay. I hope all of you understood once again. Thank you all.